Hi, I'm here today with Naomi Holland, a journalist down at Downtown Radio and CoolFM News, and you're just going to tell me a wee bit about what you do. Yeah. Okay, so Naomi, why did you decide to study journalism?
It's something from when I was about 15 years old. I remember reading this article in a magazine about a war that had been going on in Indonesia and East Timor, where over the years thousands and thousands of people had been killed, but it hadn't really been covered in the mainstream media and it had been ignored. And growing up in a society like Northern Ireland where the conflict had been broadcast all over the world, and yes, 3,000 people had died here, but I was reading about this country where 15, 20, 25,000 people had died or disappeared over the years, yet it just wasn't given the same exposure as Northern Ireland was. And I remember thinking why this was, and I remember thinking, people should be making a difference like this. And reading the article really spoke to me, and it just sort of said, this person, this journalist, is letting people know what's actually going on out there, and it just really struck a chord with me. And it's something I decided sort of at that stage that maybe journalism would be a good thing to go into. So it was a bit idealistic, but I think that always just stuck with me.
Okay, and whereabouts did you study or uni?
I did my undergraduate degree in English literature, and I finished that at Queen's University in Belfast, and then I did a postgraduate certificate over in London. I went to City University in London and did a 9-month course there, and that was a very good practical course, very based, going out and doing a lot of reporting. We ran our own radio station for 3 weeks. We did a lot of stuff, so it was really good.
Okay. So one of the questions that, now that you're a newsreader as well, down at Downtown Radio, this is one I would do. The voice, is this part of, you need to master the newsreader voice?
Yeah, no, I definitely,
is it part of like, learning?
I definitely have my posh newsreader voice. I call it, it's like a posh telephone voice as well. I guess what I sound like on air and off air are a bit different. I think when you're on air, your diction needs to be a lot better. You have to be very clear. You have to say things in a certain way because you have to convey the meaning of what you're saying to the people who are listening. There's no point in just reading a story because people are only listening to it from maybe a short period of time, and you need to get that sense of that story and what's in the story across in a very concise way. So the way you say it really helps because you're conveying the meaning, and then people don't have to think about it too much. So
yes. Do you get nervous then before you say the news on the radio? Or?
Not anymore, I guess, because I've been doing it sort of for so long on and off. I do remember my first news bulletin. I was so nervous, and I wrote everything out in the scripts, even wrote the time and my name and everything. And then the next hour, I think I was so nervous again that I forgot to change the time at the end, so I said it was 7:02 instead of 8:02 or something. And I remember afterwards, for a week, I was like, oh, I was so stupid, I said the time wrong, and but it was just it was sort of nerves. But I guess now I only get nervous if it's a really big story and if it's something that I want the listeners to become engaged in, and I'm just feeling, have I written this the right way? Are people going to understand what I'm trying to get across? Or, when it's a really important story to someone, say if it's someone who's grieving or who's really hurt, and you want to get that across, you want people to see the emotions behind it. It's not just another news story. So sometimes I do get nervous about that.
Okay, that's good. So do you enjoy being a journalist?
I do, actually. I took a bit of a break. I worked in radio from 2000 until 2005, and then I moved away for a number of years and didn't work in radio at all. Worked in different things, and only have really come back into it again in the last sort of year and a half. And it was only when I came back on a freelance basis to cover a few shifts I realised just how much I really enjoyed doing it. So I was really pleased then when sort of more full-time work came up and I was able to get back into it again.
Is it demanding? Do you feel like journalism is kind of a demanding job?
It can be, especially sometimes emotionally as well. Like I say, when you're dealing with stories and you're speaking to people who have lost someone or who've had a terrible past. We've seen all the stories recently about the abuse that's happened, and that can be draining. Listening to those stories and making sure, again, putting them out there so that people can hear them. But also the adrenaline just pumps every hour, and that's the great thing about radio news as well. It's every hour there's a deadline. It's not, you're not just sitting around waiting or, working to deadline late at night or, one big deadline a day. It's every hour, so every hour has to be different. It has to change. So you get through a shift, sometimes a 10-hour shift just disappears and you're like, oh, where did that go to? But
would you have any advice for students who are budding journalists, or why they should choose journalism if they're thinking about it?
I think it's good to think about what you want to do for your career and find out more about it, and don't make assumptions about journalism. I think a lot of people assume that it's really super glamorous and you're out interviewing celebrities and it's all really, a lot of it is standing out in the rain, getting very cold and very bored, waiting for somebody to come out of some meeting that was supposed to finish 3 hours ago and still hasn't. So it's not always adrenaline pumping. It can be boring just like any other job, but it's also a really fulfilling job, and if people really feel like they want to get into it and want to like get those stories out there and make a difference in the world, then I would absolutely agree. Look into it, get some work experience, write to your local radio station, get in, do what you can, and just, be involved. And when you go in, put your hand up for things. If you get into a radio station, say, I want to work, I want to go out, let me do something, let me write. Don't just sit there and sort of take it all in, actually get involved in the process as well.
Thank you very much for taking time to talk today.
Thank you very much.